I'd like to emphasize that our assessment of materiality is an ongoing process. As the audit concludes and the financial statements are completed, we'll update these preliminary assessments. So, that's where we stand at this point in time with our plans for your upcoming audit. Of course, we'll be meeting with you again after our fieldwork is complete and prior to the earnings release to talk about the resolution of these issues and any new ones that come up in our examination. I want to thank you for your time and attention this morning, and unless you have some other questions, this concludes our presentation of the audit plan.
Very good, Allison.
Excuse me, Phil. I do have a couple of questions.
Yes, go ahead.
Now, please bear with me because I've never been involved this closely in an audit before. But I'd like to come back to this term that you mentioned, materiality.
Yes?
Well, I've always been under the impression that materiality is a number. Not that I want this to turn into a lecture, but would you mind telling me how you decide what's material?
That's a good question, and a tough one, too. Determining materiality is almost as much an art as it is a science, in that it requires business and professional judgment about qualitative issues as well as quantitative assessment. From a business point of view, we might take a close look at something that's very small, if it's important to you. In terms of our audit, the evaluation of materiality can vary depending on the situation. For example, it's typical to quantitatively evaluate errors that we find in our detailed testing of account balances. And we very carefully consider the dollar impact these errors have on the financial statements. But we also need to consider other qualitative issues, such as litigation, or unasserted claims, or other issues that might be relevant to your company and the industry. Let me give you an example. In this industry, compliance with FDA rules and regulations is critical. Now, while a problem in this area might not be immediately related to a specific dollar amount, it certainly would have significant impact on the business, and we'd have to consider the potential impact on the financial statements. I try to evaluate materiality in terms of the impact an issue can have on the financial statements, and the point at which a reader would be likely to change their view of the statements. Does that help?
Yes, I think so. Another thing that you talked about, risk assessment. And what do you mean by risk?
When we talk about risk assessment in the audit planning process, we're talking about the risk that materially misstated financial statements might be issued by the company. Now, there are a number of ways that you can minimize that risk. One is with an active board that exercises effective oversight. Another is through the external audit process, what we've been talking about today. Now, as auditors, we deal with three kinds of risk. The first is often called inherent risk. Those are the risks that arise from the significant business issues that you face, such as what's happening in the economy, the global market, and within the industry itself, litigation, competition, all those issues that impact your company's current operations and future prospects. The second risk is control risk. This is the risk that your company's policies and procedures will not prevent or detect material misstatements. Now, to evaluate control risk, we look at your accounting practices and procedures and your management's attitudes about them. To develop appropriate audit procedures, we have to evaluate both types of risk. And that brings us to the third risk, what's known as detection risk. This is the risk that we will not detect material misstatements. For example, when we started our planning 2 weeks ago, we found several things.
pulled out yesterday, rejecting the group's takeover bid for the fourth time. Coopers Laboratories announced today that the Federal Food and Drug Administration has given the company the green light to begin marketing a new drug delivery system. The local pharmaceutical firm has created a skin patch that can transmit a number of different medicines directly through the skin. The new product has been in development for more than 7 years. And speaking of development...
Bill, I need a suggestion.
Oh?
It's about dermaceutics. We need a new in-charge for the engagement, and I'm afraid I need one fast.
Well, I thought that Jean was going to be the new in-charge.
I thought so too. But then one of her clients got involved in an acquisition. She'll be out of town until the end of the month. Bill, I'm glad Terry got the promotion. I really am. But she's going to be very hard to replace.
Well, that's the trouble with the good ones. They get promoted.
All right. Tell me who you've got up your sleeve.
Max Anderson.
I worked with him once. It's been a couple of years, though.
Well, what'd you think?
You're his career advisor, aren't you?
Yes, I am. So what did you think of Max?
I thought he was thorough, dependable, very sharp, got along well with the clients.
Those are some very admirable qualities.
Bill, I need someone who can adapt quickly to a changing environment. Nothing against Max, but hasn't he been working for the most part with larger companies? Companies that don't change much from year to year?
Yes. And he's done a great job.
I'm sure he has, but this is different.
Remember when you first brought Terry on the engagement? You told me that if a person has the right amount of potential and ability, the engagement would take care of the experience?
Touché.
Allison, Max has a lot of potential, and you couldn't find a more conscientious in charge. What he needs is more exposure to different types of business. And that's what we need for Max.
You're right, Bill. It is a good opportunity for him.
Good morning.
Hi. I think this is for you.
Thank you. Allison Banks wants to see me?
I heard she's looking for a new in-charge since Terry got promoted.
But she handles healthcare. I haven't done a hospital engagement in over 2 years. Well, I guess I'll be in her office for a while.
I'll get right to the point. I'd like you to be the new in-charge on the dermaceutics engagement. Bill and I have discussed it, and we agreed that you could bring a lot to the team. What do you think?
Sure.
I know you're not familiar with the industry, but Greg Kovac and I will be here to help you.
He's the manager.
That's right. In fact, I've asked him to join us to help fill you in. But before we go on, do you have any questions?
No, not right now.
Welcome to the world of pharmaceuticals. Good to have you on the team.
Thanks. But I thought this was about a hospital or a clinic.
Oh, no. This is the wonders of science, pharmaceuticals and biotechnology. You can read all about it in there. And there's lots more in the database, too.
So how does dermaceutics, how do they fit into all of this?
Dermaceutics was started about 8 years ago. The two founders were research scientists. They were working for J&M on a new cortisone cream.
J&M felt that the market wasn't big enough for them, and they quit funding the research. But the two scientists saw the potential. So they worked out an arrangement with J&M to acquire the rights. Then they began to commercialize the product. That's when they formed Dermaceutics. Allison brought them in 5 years ago as a client.
We helped the company with their initial public offering last year. You can get more background by reading the prospectus, and Greg can fill you in on some of the other details before the meeting.
Excuse me, but what meeting?
We have a meeting at 1. It's at Dermaceutics. That'll give you a chance to get acquainted with some of the people and the facility. Can you clear your afternoon?
Sure, yeah, I think so.
And in the meantime, happy reading.
Thanks.
Oh, hi.
How's it going?
I'm glad you stopped by. This is some company.
You're right about that. So tell me, what have you done so far?
Well, I've looked over their financial statements and I've gone over their quarterlies to date.
What do you think?
Greg, they're generating some serious losses. I've never worked with a company in this kind of shape.
Yeah. The R&D, research and development, takes a lot of cash. Yeah, things change fast, too. It makes auditing a real challenge.
Speaking of auditing, where's last year's audit plan? It's not here.
It's in the file room. You can look at that later.
Greg, what do I need to look for when we get there?
Just keep your eyes and ears open. The company's in transition. They've added some new products and they've moved into a new facility. So we need to be alert to any related business issues and take a look at how management's addressing them, along with any obvious risks that may affect the audit. Anything else?
No, except I have another appointment at 4. Is that going to cause a problem?
Shouldn't be. Oh, you can drive out there if you want. I'll give you directions. Oh, and Max, you're gonna do just fine.
Allison. Greg. It's good to see you again.
Nice to see you, Phil. Jim, I hope we're not interrupting.
No, not at all. You must be Max.
That's right.
I'd like you to meet Max Anderson. He'll be taking Terry's place. Dr. Phil Harris,
Just Phil is fine.
founder and chief executive officer, and Jim Van Eckland,
Hi. How are you?
senior vice president of finance and administration.
It's good to meet both of you.
Why don't we have a seat?
Okay.
We're still waiting for Charlie. He should be down in just a minute.
Phil, while we're waiting, could you bring us up to date on some of the things you've been doing this past year? This is all pretty new to Max.
Sure. Is this your first visit to a pharmaceutical company?
Yes, it is.
Well, we'll make sure that you get a good tour of the facilities. Max, let me give you a little background. We manufacture and sell dermal therapeutic products. Now, to create those products, we spend a lot of time and money on research and development. In fact, what we have here is a pipeline. That pipeline begins in the laboratory with R&D. That's what feeds our manufacturing facilities with new products. And that's what generates sales. The trick in this business is to keep that pipeline filled so you're always pumping out something new to feed the market at the other end. Now, as far as this year, it's been a busy one for us. As you know, we moved into new facilities. We also started manufacturing 2 new products. We have a new marketing department, and we hired a new clinical director as well. We have also kept Jim pretty busy making sure that our systems keep up with all this activity. Now, Max, what questions do you have?
Well, I'm curious about your products. How do you know which products to develop?
Max, I wish I did. Out of all the different research projects that we're working on, we may only get 1 or 2 that eventually become a commercial success. And I'd be very happy with that. The product development process can take between 8 and 10 years. It's a real gamble. Now, fortunately, this is our field of science. We know the dermal applications market very well. We believe this gives us a distinct advantage over the competition. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Not substantially. I feel we have some very strong products, and Phil has put together a team of dedicated, talented people. We're all focused on making it work.
Sorry I'm late. I saw you come in, but I was on the phone. I don't believe I know you.
Max Anderson.
Max, I'm Charlie.
Max, Charlie is chief operating officer. He runs plant operations. In fact, he designed the entire facility.
Really? Charlie, why don't you take Max and Greg on the nickel tour, would you? Allison and Jim and I have to continue our meeting here.
Sure, let's go.
Thanks.
Here. You'll need these.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, everyone wears one. It may not be a fashion statement, but it's clean.
We're dealing with pharmaceutical products, Max, so we have to constantly maintain an operating environment that meets the FDA standards for good manufacturing practices. As you probably heard from Greg, we just moved in this year. Right now we have 3 mixing bays and there's room for 2 more later on. Now, this is where we make Cortillon.
That's their bread and butter product.
It's a cortisone-based topical skin treatment. In fact, that's where we came up with the name dermaceutics for skin. And we've been making it for about 6 years now. We keep this area running pretty much at full capacity. The raw materials are poured through those doors. Then they get mixed in the vats. Downstairs, we have a filling line where it's drawn off and packaged. We've been doing a lot of research on wounds and burns. Now, one of the problems with burns is dehydration. And it's also a problem with some surgeries. Now, this product works like a chemical bandage to prevent dehydration. We sell it directly to a number of hospitals and burn centers. Now, I won't give you the chemical term for it, but the marketing name is Bitterline.
You were waiting for a final FDA approval this time last year, weren't you?
That's right. We just started shipping it this year. Now, this is our new line. This is our own proprietary design. We expect to have it up to full capacity real soon. So, what do you think of all this, Max?
I'm impressed. You did all this with the proceeds from the IPO?
$4 million of the best equipment you can buy. 150,000 square feet of 21st century engineering.
Do you own the space outright?
Well, it's a lease, but we got a great deal on it. No rent for 2 years.
What's in there?
That's our latest product, TDR42. It's a genetic compound we developed to treat certain types of skin cancer. And that's going to be our big breakthrough. That room has some of the latest equipment of its type in the world. But we haven't brought the line up to capacity, so we only run one shift in the morning. You got to watch yourself in here. Forklifts move pretty fast sometimes.
Do you have everything segregated?
That's right. Cordyline, Bitterline, and TDR42's over there.
With all this space and movement, do you ever have any problems with shrinkage?
You make it sound like a department store or something. Now, you got to realize everything we do here is regulated and monitored by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. See, whenever we make a batch, we have to be able to identify every single ingredient. I mean, all the chemicals, where they came from, everything. Then each product batch is assigned a lot number. And that lot number goes on all the labels, the packaging, shipping manifest, everything. It's all computerized. And we have to be able to track every lot all the way to the customer, from the cradle to the grave, so to speak.
Max, the FDA requires total compliance and complete documentation.
Those guys could shut us down in a minute if we don't have all the right paperwork. We got one more stop. I can't take you into the laboratory, but we can take a peek through the doors. Oh, I almost forgot. I want to introduce you to somebody. Maria, I'd like you to meet a couple of our auditors. This is Greg Kovac.
Hi.
And Max Anderson.
Hi.
This is Dr. Maria Rodriguez. She's our clinical director. Maria supervises our laboratory research, and she's also our primary liaison with the FDA.
Pleased to meet you.
Quite a place, isn't it?
Sure is. It's different.
You're right. There have been some changes since last year, and it looks like their losses are ahead of last year, too. We're going to have to know if these changes bring up any new business risks and, of course, what effect that's going to have on our audit. I know you need to learn more about the industry and the environment to be able to get a handle on the risk that this company is facing, but try to get up to speed as quickly as possible. We do need to get moving on the audit plan.
Okay.
Can you think of anything else we need to tell Max?
Yeah, they're really great people, Max, but they're scientists. They're used to managing research and manufacturing, not a public company. They can deal with the FDA, but they're still learning about the SEC. So you're going to have to guide them in the right direction sometimes, because they don't look at things the same way we do.
Any questions, Max?
I think I need to look over last year's work papers and the audit plan. That'll give me some direction.
You can take a look at them, but the way things are, you're going to have to use your own best judgment. This company is growing and changing at a pretty fast pace.
And when you're developing the plan, keep in mind, compared to last year's, it's going to change.
When do you want to have a draft of the audit plan?
We have a few weeks. I'll be in Tulsa next week, but I'll be back on Friday. Do as much as you can, and then we'll discuss your progress when I get back.
And I hate to tell you this, but I'm going to be gone next week, too. Teaching staff school, but we'll keep in touch by phone. I will call you Monday and help you get started.
Oh, and you can talk to Terry, too. She's the previous in charge.
Yeah, I know.
See you Monday.
This is the wonders of science, pharmaceuticals and biotechnology.
You only get one or two that eventually become a commercial success. It's a real gamble.
I know you're not familiar with the industry, but Greg...
Those guys could shut us down in a minute if we don't have all the right paperwork.
They can deal with the FDA, but they're still learning about the SEC. So,
This company is growing and changing at quite a fast pace. You're going to have to use your own best judgment.
keep in mind,
You're going to have to use your own best
it's going to
judgment.
change.
Best judgment.
Hello?
Hi, it's me.
Hi, me. Are you still at the office?
Yeah, but I'm getting ready to leave.
Well, that's a good idea.
So, what are you doing with your Saturday?
Painting.
You have something new?
Something different. How's the project going?
It's called an engagement.
Oh, sorry. Well, how's it going?
Something different.
Troubles?
Well, I'm having a hard time getting a handle on this new company I'm working with. Sort of like doing a jigsaw puzzle and not knowing what the picture looks like. And then on top of that, the pieces keep changing shape. Just about the time I think I understand something, I find something else that changes the whole picture.
Sounds frustrating.
Well, it is.
Would you like a suggestion?
Sure.
Add a light touch of blue.
And come pick me up, I'm hungry.
I'll be there soon. Bye. Do you know if Terry's in?
No, she's on vacation this week. But if it's really important, you might be able to reach her at home. That's if she hasn't left yet.
Thanks, I'll try that.
Do you need her number?
Hi. This is 555-7043. We're out right now, but if you leave a message, we'll be glad to get back to you just as soon as we get back.
Hi, Terry, this is Max Anderson. At the office. Can you give me a call back when you get a chance? Thanks.
You must be Max. I'm Cheryl. Cheryl Morrison.
Hi.
I guess I'm going to be the staff assistant on the dermaceutics audit. Greg called scheduling and they asked me to come see you.
That's great. Have a seat. Listen, I don't know a whole lot yet about... Excuse me. Hello, this is Max Anderson.
Hi, this is Greg. I just called scheduling to assign you a staff assistant. I think it's going to be Cheryl.
Yeah, she's sitting right in front of me.
Good, good. Hey, listen, I talked to our client, and I set up a meeting for 10:45. Cheryl can take the tour while you talk with Jim and the others.
That's fine. We'll be there.
Great. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Okay. That was Greg.
I heard. So, what would you like me to get started on?
Well, the first thing I'd like you to do is update our understanding of the client's accounting system, what controls are in place, and what's changed since last year.
It's a small company, isn't it? I mean, won't we be doing a substantive audit for the most part?
Well, it's a bit early to tell. But even if we do, we need to understand the control structure so we can identify risks and develop the appropriate tests. Now, you'll also need these. These are some of the work papers in the audit plan from last year.
Do you know who I need to interview?
No, we'll get you those names later today. But before you start interviewing, we'll need to develop a list of objectives so you'll know what to concentrate on with each person.
Okay.
Outside of that, it's quite a company, and you'll get the grand tour.
Yes, we still reconcile cash the same way we did last year. And no, we have not added an internal audit group. Not yet. Max, come back in 5 years, and we might have an accounting department with the kinds of controls and procedures that you're probably used to working with. Now, with that in mind, what else would you like to know?
Jim, could you bring me up to date on the segregation of duties in your financial department?
Max, let me explain something about this department. We have 3 people here besides myself. I have an accounting manager who also doubles as the EDP manager. I have an accounts receivable clerk who has a new system on her hands, and I have an accounts payable clerk. That's a lot of responsibility for just a few people. Fortunately, they're very good at handling it.
Okay, Jim. Tell me about the controls that you do have in place.
Max, like I said, we're a small company. Phil, Charlie, and myself stay on top of things pretty well. We keep a tight rein on cash. The object is to control the pressure points of the business.
I see. Well, perhaps I should be more specific. For example, your monthly reports. Tell me how you go about putting this together and what you do with it.
The reporting. Okay, here's how that goes. First, my people put together a detailed balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow analysis for each monthly report. We compare the monthly reports to the previous year actual and the current year budget. Let me tell you about that. In a company like ours, comparisons to the previous year don't really tell you a whole lot. The key comparison is against the budget. I meet with Phil and Charlie, and we discuss the reports in detail. Then we go through them again with the board at our monthly meetings.
About the budget. Now, I've noticed a significant spending variance in your research and development, and your cash balance is down substantially.
That's true. With all the projects we have, it takes a lot of cash. We're never sure how far they'll go or how long they'll take to get there. And so it's hard to estimate their cost. And on top of that, Phil and Maria are constantly coming up with new opportunities for us. And the board has agreed that we shouldn't pass on anything that's promising, even if it hasn't been specifically budgeted.
So the board does review the variances?
Well, they certainly do. And when you get a chance to read the board minutes, you'll see they play a very active role, too.
Good. All right. Now I'd like to focus on some other differences between this year and last year. For example, I've noticed that your inventory is up.
That's right, and that's an interesting situation. Now, first, Bitroline is still new. We've scaled up for full production, but we haven't seen the sales yet. Cordyline has been around for a while, and now it has some fairly heavy competition. And perhaps we should have cut production a little in the last quarter. And as for TDR-42, well, that's still coming on stream. Now, what else can I do for you?
Well, I had another question about your new lease, but actually, I want to make sure I understand all the fluctuations in your financials and the previous quarterlies first.
Max, let me walk you through the P&L. I think that will explain a lot.
Good.
Excuse me, Dr. Rodriguez.
You can call me Maria. Everyone else does. Have a seat.
Thank you.
I'm afraid I don't have a lot of time today. What can I do for you?
I have a few questions I'd like to ask you.
Sure, what do you want to know?
I understand that you manufacture 3 products, Cordyline, Bitroline, and TDR-42.
Yes, that's right.
And that they all need to be FDA approved.
That's correct. The FDA controls nearly everything we do here.
Well, Charlie explained some of that to me. But how does a product get approved?
It's a very long and involved process.
Well, Phil tells me that it can take up to 10 years.
That's reasonably accurate if you consider our initial laboratory experiments as part of your time frame. But you're right, the approval process is quite time-consuming.
Could you tell me a little bit about it?
Essentially, the process is broken into 2 stages. First, we go through preclinical trials. That's initial testing that occurs in a laboratory environment without human subjects. That part can take from 1 to 3 years. Then, after we've compiled enough data and the FDA is satisfied with the results, we move on to clinical trials.
What's involved in the clinical trials?
We go through a series of tests on human subjects. It's broken into 3 phases. Phase 1 determines the toxicology.
Phase 2 and Phase 3 are tests for efficacy. Phase 2 is conducted on a limited number of actual patients. And Phase 3 includes a larger segment of the human population.
And after all that, that's when the product's approved.
We also have to present all of our data to the FDA and file a new drug application. And they have to review our marketing and packaging too. And if they're satisfied with everything we've done, they approve it. I hate to cut this short, but I have some things I need to take care of in the lab.
Sure. Maria, thank you for your time, and I appreciate your help.
Stop by if you need anything else. Yes?
Maria, where do we stand on TDR 42?
I'm still waiting to hear from Washington.
Why are they taking so long?
I don't know. We should have heard by now. The last time I talked to them, they were still very positive.
Okay, well, let me know just as soon as you hear something. TDR 42 is still waiting for final marketing approval. We're just going to have to watch the mailbox and wait.
Max, come back in 5 years and we might have an accounting department with the kinds of controls and procedures that you're probably used to.
We also have to present all of our data to the FDA and file a new drug application. And they have to review our marketing and packaging.
And it looks like their losses are ahead of last year, too.
Comparisons to the previous year don't really tell you a whole lot.
We do need to get moving on the audit plan. We do need to get moving on the audit plan. We do need to get moving on the audit plan.
Hi, Max.
Hi, have you heard from Terry?
No, not since I talked to you. Well, didn't I tell you?
You told me I might be able to reach her at home.
Oh, I guess I didn't tell you. Max, she's taking a cruise.
Max, I get the impression something's bothering you.
Well, it's nothing serious, Bill.
Oh. It wouldn't have anything to do with the plan that you've been working on, would it?
They're not like any of my other clients, Bill. This line of business is so different from any company I've ever worked with. I've never seen so many potential problems with just one company before. And with the way things always seem to change, I just don't want to miss anything or take the wrong approach with the audit plan.
Well, there is a lot to deal with, and it is a challenging audit. But you're a good auditor, Max, and you're working with two excellent people. I mean, Greg and Allison know the client very well, and they'll help keep you on track.
I know. It's just hard to get a handle on all the issues and make sure I'm approaching them the right way.
Well, maybe you want to just step back and take a look at the basics.
What do you mean?
Well, your purpose and our function. Designing and executing an audit plan that will support our opinion. That part never changes.
Yeah, I suppose.
Max, I think that this experience is going to be a great help to your career.
Thanks.
If I can be of any help, just call me.
With this new system we have, it keeps track of all of the aging. Less than 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, and over 90. Over 90 is what really gets scrutinized.
Okay. We're almost done. Just one more specific. Do you send out regular monthly statements?
Oh, yeah. We send out invoices, you know, at the same time as the shipment. Then we also send out a monthly statement. It has everything summarized on it. I mean, everything all through the month, all the way up to the end.
And is that also done on the computer?
Oh, yeah. That computer does it all.
Okay. Let me ask you one last question. It's kind of general.
Okay.
Linda, what's your biggest headache?
Well, you know, I've been getting a bunch of calls from our customers, complaints about the pricing. You know, they get one price from the salesman, and then when they get their invoice, it's something else. Of course, they would never call if it was too low, but when it's the other way around, oh boy, it's really a mess to straighten out.
How can you have pricing problems with just 3 products?
Oh, my word. We must have 30 or 40 at least.
But when I took the tour with
See,
Charlie...
we have different sizes. Everything from 1/2 gram to 2 kilograms. And then there are different case sizes. And there's different concentration on some of the stuff. And then with the prices, well, there are bulk discounts. And then we also have price changes.
So some of your customers aren't getting the prices they've been quoted.
That is my biggest problem.
Okay, let me make sure I've got this right. You have 2 minis, 25 PCs, all networked.
That's right.
You have online processing for major applications, and all your software is packaged except for payroll, which is done by an outside service.
You got it.
Good. Well, I think that's all I need on the EDP environment, but I do have one more question. I understand that there have been some complaints from some customers about pricing errors.
Now look, I know all about these complaints. And believe me, it's on my list of things to do.
Well, Dave, I know the system is new and all, but can you tell me what might be causing the problem?
Well, we're using the same software package that's being used by other pharmaceutical firms. And I don't think this is that big of a problem. I mean, after all, the software does print out an edit file on all the price changes.
Oh. How do you use the edit file?
Well, I'll look it over when I get a chance. Look, I really don't see why this is such a big deal.
You may be right. It may not be a big deal at all. But it could affect customer goodwill and the way we approach receivables valuation in our audit. Can you tell me how the prices are entered in the master file?
When marketing sends me a price change, I enter it.
So marketing authorizes the price changes and discounts.
Yeah, that's right. And they're approved by Charlie and Phil. Then when they send them to me, I put them into the system.
Does marketing ever review the computer-generated price list?
I told you already, they send it to me and I enter it. Now what's to review?
Friday, a week from today. Have a seat, Max. I'll be with you in a moment. We'll be there. See you then. Oh, boy. Now, how are things going at Dermaceutics?
I'm still gathering information, although it's taking a little longer than I thought. But I'm still learning about the industry. Cheryl is updating our information on the systems, and we're analyzing the financial statements.
Tell me what you've discovered so far.
Well, for one thing, they have a terrible cash flow problem. And from what I understand about the industry, there are any number of external events that could put this company right out of business.
Max, in a way, you're right. Cash flow has always been an issue in this industry. There are a lot of risks. But the fact is, they have to spend money to make money. Otherwise, there are no new products. I think it's important that you recognize the cash issue, and we need to keep an eye on it. How's the audit plan coming along?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to see how the information I have so far fits in with last year's audit plan. Now, some things have remained the same, but there's a lot that it just doesn't fit with last year's plan.
I'm not surprised. Like I mentioned before, with all that's happened in the past year, we really need to take a fresh look.
Well, that's what I figured. The inventory, however, is in good shape.
What have you found?
Well, all the FDA procedures to control it, they have all of those, and from what I've seen, their compliance is outstanding.
The procedures are very good for verifying physical existence. But what about valuation? Have you thought about lure of cost or market issues?
I haven't gotten quite that far yet.
We need to look into the market for dermaceutics products. And with a new plant and some unused capacity, we need to make sure that they're properly accounting for the cost variances. There's more to the inventory than just the physical controls.
guess I better take a closer look.
That would be a good idea. Now I need to talk to you about something else.
Yes?
Phil called. The audit committee of the board has moved up our presentation date. They've scheduled a meeting for next Friday for us to present the plan. I need to see your draft on Wednesday. Then you and Greg and I can work together on finalizing it for the board.
Federal Drug Administration has denied approval to Geraldine Laboratories for a new antiviral drug. Evidence that the controversial drug could successfully fight the common cold and other flu viruses was inconclusive, according to the FDA. The company refused comment other than to say they were disappointed in the verdict. Other news today.
Welcome back.
Oh, thanks. It's good to be back. So, how are our friends in the white coats?
Well, I'm still putting it all together.
I figured you would be. Why don't you give me the headlines?
Okay. Item number 1 is a pricing problem with sales invoices.
Oh, really?
Yep. It appears there's a problem with updating the master price file.
Is Dave still managing both EDP and accounting?
Oh, yeah. He claims that he personally inputs all the prices just as he gets them from marketing. Well, when I talk to marketing, they blame accounting for not inputting them correctly.
Well, is marketing following up to see if the changes are made properly?
They don't appear to. Dave says he reviews the price change update list when he has the time, but he doesn't send it to anybody else.
Well, how long do you think this has been going on?
I'm not sure. Probably since they started the new system.
You're kidding.
I wish I were. Greg, it seems to me that this could affect a number of areas. First, it could adversely affect cash flow if their customers delay any of their payments. Second, it could affect their relationship with those customers. And third, it's going to have an impact on the accuracy of revenue and receivables.
You're probably right. So how big a problem are we talking about here?
I don't think it can be that large. Jim, Phil, and Charlie seem to watch the operating results very closely. And if there was a significant shortfall or overage, I think they would have investigated it.
So, does this affect your assessment of the overall control environment?
Not really. My feeling is it's just a new system, and that the control procedures haven't caught up with it yet.
And overall?
Overall, the control environment appears to be strong. Management and the board are actively involved. They have good monthly operating reports, and they pay attention to them. Basically, the controls are strong.
Well, it looks like something's slipping through. Have you talked to Jim yet?
Not yet, but I'll be seeing him this afternoon.
Good. Be sure to explain to him that they need to get a handle on the overall magnitude of the error, both from a business point of view and a cash flow perspective. And they need to fix it, too.
I was planning to do just that.
Good. So, what else do you have for me?
Well, I've got some preliminary ideas on the plan. They're pretty rough for now.
You are thorough. This might take us a while to go through. Want to get some lunch?
Oh, I have just one more thing I want to discuss with you.
What's that?
Materiality. You see, in other situations, I'd be tempted to use a percentage of net income or equity. I don't think it's going to work here.
You're right. It's not. That approach shouldn't be used universally without first considering the individual facts and circumstances of each audit.
What do you suggest?
I think we need to think about what materiality really means.
Well, in my definition, It's the size of unadjusted error that would make me change my conclusion about the fairness of the presentation of the financial statements.
Been reading textbooks lately?
Yeah, but I know what you mean. I know we need to look at qualitative factors as well as quantitative factors, and I know we need to be sensitive to the causes of potential errors as well as their size. That is what I'm struggling with.
Right. Okay, so for now, I think you should look at the financial statements. Look at shareholders' equity, sales and earnings trends, current year projections. See what you can develop that we can use as a starting point. You're definitely on the right track, Max. And I'm curious to see what you'll come up with.
Yeah, so am I.
And I know Allison will be thrilled and impressed.
Max, wait a minute.
What's the matter?
I just have a question.
Cheryl, I've got to get out to Dermaceutics and I'm late. Can we talk about this while we're going?
I was trying to do the analytical review you wanted,
Right.
but I can't find any sales or cost of sales data for
TDR 42?
Right, but there's inventory listed in the summary. See, there it is. It's capitalized, but there's no sales data.
Oh, no. You're right. I think I know the reason why, too. We'll talk about this when I get back, but thanks a lot. I've got to go. Good work.
But Max, where can I find the sales data?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Maria, you're just the person I needed to see.
I need to get to the laboratory.
I just have one question. Has TDR 42 been approved for sale by the FDA?
No, not yet. The new drug application has been submitted, but we're still waiting for final approval.
Thanks. Jim, I understand it hasn't been approved yet by the FDA. Now, from what I can see, TDR 42 is being capitalized as inventory. I'm a little confused. What's your accounting policy on this?
Well, according to Phil and Maria, the testing has gone extremely well. We fully expect that by the end of the fiscal year, TDR 42 is not only going to be approved, Max, we'll be selling it. Right now, we're bringing the line up to capacity, and we're building our inventory for the product launch.
I wasn't aware of this.
Well, that's the way it is. You wanted to talk to me, something about lease transactions?
Yes. Yes, as a matter of fact, I did. I didn't find any rent expense in your August financials, and I believe Charlie told me you're leasing this building.
Yes, that's right.
Can you explain that to me?
Well, Max, you know the real estate market, how soft it's been. We've been given a rent holiday for the first couple of years, then the next two at 50% of market. Eventually, it gets to full rate for the rest of the term. What's wrong with that?
Well, it sounds like a great deal. It really does. But I think that you should be recording rent expense as it reflects benefits of use. Now, also, I think there's an accounting rule on that that requires straight-line recognition.
Really? I'd like to see it.
Well, I can have that sent to you right away. And I'd like a copy of the lease. I'm going to need that for the audit.
Of course.
Jim, there's something else I wanted to talk to you about.
Oh?
When Cheryl and I were interviewing Linda and Dave, we found out that there are or have been customer complaints about mispriced invoices. Now, this can affect your cash receipts. And I asked Dave how he updates the master price
Max,
file.
I'm well aware of that, and Dave is working on it to find out why.
Well, this is something that concerns us. It looks like it could be a control weakness. Dave is inputting prices and reviewing them, both.
You're just full of good news today, aren't you?
Well, it should be easy to fix. It's really just a matter of having the same people who initiate the price changes reviewing them. Now, I understand the price changes come from marketing. So all you need to do is make sure that they review the edit reports from the master price file.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea. I'll talk to Dave and we'll start doing it right away. And I'll have marketing sign off on it too.
Well, I'm assuming you'll also want to find out if there are any significant overstatements or understatements of income.
You better believe it.
Well, when you find those things out, I'll need those as well. I'll need that information for the audit.
Okay, I'll talk to Dave about that.
Great.
It would be helpful if you could work with him, though. But I'd better talk to him first.
Thanks. Good morning.
Hi. Are you in or out today?
Yes.
Does that mean you're in but not available, or you're going to be in two places at once?
In, but not available. I need to finish the audit plan for dermaceutics.
I see. Have fun.
This is the wonders of science. Pharmaceuticals and biotech.
The way things are, you're going to have to use your own best
Max,
judgment.
come back in 5 years, and we might have an accounting department with the kinds of controls and procedures that you're probably using.
Well, maybe you want to just step back and take a look at the basics.
I need to see your draft on Wednesday.
Keep in mind, it's going to change.
I need to see your draft on Wednesday. Wednesday.
Hello.
Hi, it's me.
Oh, hi.
I was just wondering if you were still planning on coming over to dinner tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a little late. Don't wait for me if you get hungry, okay?
I'll save you a fortune cookie.
I'll be there in a little while.
Okay.
This thing is so frustrating. It's like, oh, I don't know.
Look, I know you can't tell me about the details, but why don't you tell me how you feel? You know, about the problem.
There are too many variables. Every time I try to write something down, I can think of 2 or 3 things that cause it to change. I can't count on anything to remain constant.
Dear precise Max.
Yeah, I guess I am. What I want, I just want to do the best job. I really want the plan to be right. That's all. I feel like I'm doing it wrong. I know I'm going to have to change it.
Just because something changes, does that make it wrong?
Well,
Max, do you know how many times I've changed a painting?
I know.
If I don't get it the first time, does that make it wrong? Look, I know what you're going through. I mean, the scariest thing in the world to me is that blank canvas. But you've got to start somewhere. And you've got to be willing to get a little paint on you, too. You know?
Yeah. Light touch blue.
Yeah.
Hi there. I hear you've been looking for me.
Terry! Yes, I have. Come on in and grab a seat.
So, what's up?
Well, I sure could have used your help last week on dermaceutics.
Well, no, you couldn't. I haven't worked with them since spring. All my input would have been out of date. Is there anything I could do to help you now?
Yeah, there is. How would you like to give me some feedback on the audit plan?
Sure, I could do that.
Okay. All right, let me start with the strategy for the major accounting cycles. First of all, payroll.
Okay.
I think we could do the same thing as you did last year. That area hasn't changed.
We didn't have any problems with payroll. The outside service does a great job.
Good.
What are you planning for the purchasing cycle?
Well, things appear to be the same there too, except there's a lot more volume related to the new products. But it looks like last year was the first time we did extra tests of controls to reduce the level of substantive tests. Was it really more efficient?
Well, that was a judgment call. The volume of transactions had just increased to the point where we felt that doing additional control testing would pay off. Because of the linkage to inventory expenses and accounts payable, we found it reduced a lot of the detailed testing procedures. So, yes, for the completeness, existence, and accuracy objectives, it was more efficient.
Great. Now let me run this by you. I'm thinking about observing inventory prior to year end, maybe at the end of October.
Oh, really? What's your rationale?
Well, there's a number of reasons. Jim says a December 31st inventory is inconvenient. And with FDA requirements, they have strong controls over access and physical movement. They take periodic cycle counts, and we have a lot more products this year.
Well, as long as management still has controls as good as they did last year, and you're able to test them in the intervening period.
Sure. And we'll do analytical procedures to test the changes to the inventory, too.
Then it sounds sensible to me. Last year, the inventory observation was very smooth. There weren't any exceptions to the test of perpetual records. Sounds like a good idea, Max.
All right. Thanks.
So, how'd things go with Jim yesterday?
Good. We talked about the receivables problem. Jim's going to have Dave find out what's causing the problem, how big it is, what adjustments need to be made, and he wants me to help.
I'm sure Dave will love that. Oh, what are they going to do about fixing it?
Well, Jim's adding some new procedures. From now on, after Dave inputs the price changes, he'll send the edit output of the master file to marketing. Marketing will approve it in writing, and Jim will review them.
Good. Good. I'm glad you talked with him. So how does that affect your strategy?
Well, there's two things. First, we'll need to look at what they did, and we'll make sure they understand the error, how big it is, and how many customers are affected, and so on.
You're right. And I think we should talk with them, too, about what they're going to do in regard to their customers, both those who've overpaid and those who've underpaid.
And we'll need to know what impact this error is going to have on revenue and receivables.
Okay. But how are we going to know if they fixed it?
Well, that's the second thing. Between now and year end, we can check with the marketing people to make sure they're getting the edit output on time and reviewing it promptly. Now, I'd also like to get computer-generated master price lists to compare with marketing's approved list. We'll also review credit memos and follow up with Linda to see if the volume of complaints has gone down.
It sure sounds thorough to me. Now, with all the new customers, how's it going to affect our testing?
Well, I plan on continuing to use a substantive approach, but we'll have to do more positive confirmations for existence, and that'll give us additional assurance on accuracy, too.
Okay. What's your feeling about collectability?
Well, they have knowledgeable people who have made reliable estimates of bad debt allowance in the past. Dave seems to do a thorough job of checking out customers before their credit limits are approved, and Jim personally reviews all the items outstanding more than 90 days.
Yeah. But remember, there's lots more customers this year. There's no real history we can rely on.
Oh, I know. We'll have to watch the aging closely at year end and through the end of the field work.
So what do you plan to do?
Well, we'll review the correspondence files and payment history on long outstanding items, and we should review the subsequent cash receipts after year end, too.
I agree. What else has come up?
The leasing issue.
Oh yeah, that's where they don't have to pay rent for 2 years?
Right. But the catch is they're not booking any rent this year. They need to straight line this expense, don't they?
Yeah, they sure do. I guess we'll have to talk to Jim and schedule out payments and determine the expense. Then they'll have to flow it through on the financials, either as overhead absorbed in the inventory or as period expenses.
Good.
I guess you could say
There's no free rent.
Okay, let's move along. What other business issues are we facing this year?
Well, for one thing, they're having a problem with their newest product, TDR42.
Oh, what sort of problem?
Well, the FDA hasn't approved it for sale yet, but they're producing it and they're capitalizing the costs.
Have you talked to them about this?
I spoke to the clinical director yesterday, and she said it hasn't been approved. When I talked to Jim, he explained his rationale for capitalizing it. He said that everyone is very optimistic that it's going to be approved soon. But it seems to me that it shouldn't be recognized as an asset until it's been formally approved.
You may be right, Max. Even if they do get approval, there's no guarantee that there's a market for it. But it might not be that clear-cut. We need to get more information from them. Is their inventory build-up material?
Right now, it's about $100,000. By year end, probably $300,000 or $400,000.
That could be material. By the way, what is your preliminary judgment of materiality?
We've spent some time on this. Max, why don't you explain it?
Go ahead.
Well, I realized that applying a percentage rule wasn't going to be the right approach. There are a lot of other things to be considered, like their loan agreements. Dermaceutics has to maintain minimum working capital levels and debt-to-net worth ratios.
Go on.
So I did some what-ifs, some sensitivity analyses, to determine the impact of different levels of unrecorded error on reported loss, net worth, operating trends, and debt covenant ratios. And factoring everything in, it seems $150,000 is a good threshold to start with.
Let's see. Last year they lost about $500,000. And the year before that, about the same. This year we're looking at a loss of what?
$2.4 million.
Almost 5 times. $150,000 would seem to make sense, given the pattern in operating losses.
It seemed reasonable to me, based on the $15 million of stockholders' equity.
Max, it's a good place to start. Just keep in mind that we'll have to reassess materiality as the audit progresses and the final year-end numbers are known. We need to be careful about the company's liquidity position, too, and to watch for any items of particular interest to the client. Any other issues?
Well, there's a question regarding inventory valuation of both Cordyline and Bitroline. Cordyline sales have been leveling out, and they all agreed that Bitroline sales haven't been as good as they expected.
Cordyline seems to be maturing. There's definitely more competition and price cutting in the marketplace. And as far as Bitroline goes, well, it may just be that their expectations were too high to begin with. It's a new product and a new market for them.
So we'll have to be careful about our net realizable value analysis. For example, I was planning on doing an item-by-item review of recent sales activity, including the transactions after year-end.
Right. And I think we should also plan on discussing quantities on hand and sales projections at year-end with Jim and Charlie.
Sounds good. Looks like you've done some research. What else?
Allison, I know how it is in this industry, but I'm still concerned about the rate that they're burning cash, even if nothing came up.
You're still worried about going concern.
Yes, I am.
All right. Let's hear what you've come up with.
Right now, when you add up a $2.4 million loss, the sales situation with Bitroline, and the fact that TDR42 hasn't been approved, well, unless sales pick up substantially, they may have trouble making it through next year without a large cash infusion. Maybe they should consider financing alternatives or looking at cost reduction plans. Perhaps they could consider equity financing or a new public offering, or perhaps additional debt.
Max, those are some good points. If viability becomes an issue, we'll have to look at their cash flow projections. But we really don't have enough history to be able to evaluate those projections. So you're right, Max. The critical issue will be their ability to obtain adequate financing. Now, here's what's on the agenda for tomorrow. We're going to meet with Phil and Jim to talk about the audit plan and prepare for Friday's meeting with the board. We're going to discuss the accounting for the lease, the question of recording TDR 42 as inventory, the receivables problem, and their cash requirements. Anything else?
What about the impact of these adjustments on the quarterly statements?
Good point. We certainly do need to discuss it. Both previously issued 10Qs and this quarter's. I'll add it to the list. So I hope that helps you understand a little bit more about what we mean by risk and how that influences our audit planning.
Allison, I think that you and your team have done an outstanding job. You've certainly given us a number of things to think about. Thank you.
I think we've both learned a lot in the last couple of weeks.
Max, you've impressed me with how far you've come in such a short period of time. You've been thorough, and more importantly, you've really given a lot of thought to the major issues. You're going to be a big asset to this engagement. I just wanted you to know that.
Thanks.
Hey, buddy. Great to have you on the team.
And in other news, Geraldine Laboratories has announced that it will file a multi-million-dollar lawsuit for patent infringement against Dermaceutics, a local pharmaceutical company. Geraldine attorneys claim that Dermaceutics has been manufacturing a medical product called Vitraline with a system that is identical to the proprietary manufacturing process developed by Geraldine. Neither company can be reached for further comment.